Good morning and welcome to the kickoff of the 2021 National Black and Latino Economic Summit, which spans from today through December 2nd, 2021. This next month of sessions is designed to inform, equip, and empower Black and Latino communities across the country. And this has been designed because of the passion of none other than Al Pena, our maverick leader. An amazing group of bank CEOs, industry leaders, subject matter experts, and grassroots activists have been tapped to participate. There are 4 co-chairs from the East Coast to the West Coast that will be working to shepherd you through this enlightening journey. My name is Jules Dunham Howie, and I am the director of the UPC West Side CDC in West Baltimore, and we reside in the community of Upton. And I am the co-chair of the CRA Baltimore Initiative, a coalition working to get the top banks in Baltimore to give targeted investments to the Black and Latino community. It is my pleasure now to hand off to another one of your moderators that will be ushering us through this process, Dina Harris. Dina?
Thank you so much, Jules. I noticed that our friend Marcos Morales has joined us, and hopefully he can turn his mic on and he can begin his introduction. Good morning, Marcos. How you doing? Uh-oh.
Sorry about that, everybody. Technical difficulties here on a Tuesday morning. But isn't that what usually happens when you have such an important day and such an important event like today? I'm Marcos Morales. I'm the Executive Director of Hogar Hispano Inc. Nice to meet you all. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be an exciting series. I love this conference. Back to you.
Well, thank you for that, Marcos. Looks like next on our agenda is Adam Briones from the West Coast, who's going to also introduce himself.
Sure. Thank you, Dina. And good morning, everyone. From Oakland, California, my name is Adam Briones. I'm CEO of California Community Builders, and my organization works with some of these great folks to ensure that we're doing everything we can to close the racial wealth gap for people of color, and especially African Americans and Latinos. So proud to be here, so proud to be a part of this conversation, and very excited for what I know are going to be some very exciting sessions and great conversations. And back to you, Dina.
Thank you so much. Dina Harris, I'm in Detroit. National Faith Homebuyers is the organization that I founded 25 years ago, and we provide counseling and education in addition to developing real estate. The list just goes on, but because time is short and we're already off of our schedule, I'm going to take the opportunity and the pleasure of introducing Pastor Charles Williams. I take pleasure in stating that Pastor Williams is a supportive ally and a great friend. Pastor Williams is the pastor of historic King Solomon Baptist Church in Detroit and the Michigan chair of the National Action Network. He can often be heard on Sirius XM channel 126 as the co-host of Keeping It Real with Al Sharpton. Charles is engaged in research as a doctoral candidate at the University of Michigan. His research interests include poverty, inequality, health disparities, and the intersection of race and religion. Charles enjoys training for marathons, sailing, and spending time with his wife, Angela, and their 2 young children, Charlotte and Charles III. Pastor Williams, I present you to do our opening prayer, and we appreciate you coming.
Well, thank you very much, Dina, and thank you to all of those who have come here to be with us today as we bust down the doors and bring access to our community. Let us pray. God, we thank you for this time that you've allowed us to come together. We appreciate that even in the midst of this pandemic, we continue to work on behalf of those who are the lost, the least, and the left out. God, we ask that you would bless these proceedings, Bless all of the work that we're doing in neighborhoods from the East Coast to the West Coast, from the South to the North, and of course inside of the Midwest. We ask that you would just continue to bless our hands, bless our minds as we speak truth to power, as we deal with some of the money changers in the land. Let us do it with the spirit that you would have us to do it in,
Mhm.
holding those accountable and making sure that we do not forget about those who are considered the least of these. God, don't let us gather in vain. Don't let us gather for self-enrichment or aggrandizement, but let us gather to continue to further the mission that you have blessed us all with. All these we pray in your name. Amen.
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 Yep, I'm there.
Amen.
Yeah, I just came in and out. I think it's working now.
So welcome back, everyone. Pastor Williams, thank you. That was very powerful and very moving, and it's a great start for this event. Welcome, everyone, as I said earlier, to the 2021 Black and Latino Access to Capital Summit. Please understand that this first presenter that you're going to see is actually a recorded message. However, everyone else will be live, and all the Q&A will be done for live from live folks. Please note that we're here to gain knowledge, understand how banks operate and what they do and how they think. We're here to gain understanding of how we can better serve with the banking partner relationship. But again, most importantly, we're here to gain access to capital so we can do a better job in our communities and the people that we serve. That said, I would like to start by welcoming the CEO of Truist, Mr. William Rogers. No. Somebody hit the video, please.
All right. So the video will be coming momentarily, but we actually are very fortunate because we have with us this morning a wonderful guest from Truist Bank, and we're going to bring on Peter Mahoney at this time. So we're going to actually have a discussion with Peter Mahoney, and he should be coming in the room. Okay, I see him coming in. Hey, good morning, Peter.
Everybody.
All right. So, and we'll come back to the presentation from President Rogers. Okay. So I hear, okay, there we go. All right, so let me tell you all a little bit about Peter. Peter is the Executive Vice President and Deputy General Counsel of Truist Bank. His team provides advice and support for Truist's Community Reinvestment Act program and the Community Benefits Plan, as well as advocacy on issues impacting low and moderate income clients and communities. Peter has a long history of work in the affordable housing and community development areas, including serving as a senior executive at SunTrust during its merger with BB&T and as a senior lawyer at Freddie Mac. Peter currently serves as the senior advisor to the American Bar Association section on civil rights and social justice for its Economic Justice Committee. And he's a board member of the YMCA of Greater Richmond, Virginia. Good morning, Peter.
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you again. Nice to see you, Marcos, as well. How's everyone doing this morning? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just fine. Just
Wow.
fine.
Well, that's a miracle. I'm sorry I jumped in the middle there, but I was having trouble with my computer, which indicates how old I am.
The timing was perfect.
Okay, great.
Exactly.
Well, I'm
So
really thrilled to be here.
we're happy to have you, and we promise before the end of the session we will get CEO Rogers' video for everyone to see as well. But right now, what we're going to do is jump off, and we're going to have a conversation with Peter about several critical issues that are relevant around accessing capital and getting resources to the Black and Latino communities across the country. So first off, we're going to have Marcos is going to ask you a couple questions around patient capital for small business. Marcos?
Sure.
Yeah. So, Peter, as you know, one of the biggest challenges that we nonprofits and small businesses face is access to capital, and especially capital that kind of operates in the way that we need it to operate. In many cases, in our industry, in the housing industry, the capital need is low cost patient capital. It's very often that people can get access to lines of credit, but typically those are very time sensitive and sometimes more expensive. So can you talk a little bit about how folks like ourselves get access to capital, especially in some of the more challenging markets and some of the more challenging communities that we operate out of?
Yeah, sure. That's an incredible topic, and we could probably spend the entire conference talking about access to capital. It's something Truist has been working on, and we really started this journey many years ago with the community development efforts of both of our heritage institutions. I think people know we operate mostly out of the Southeast, but our Southeast goes all the way to Pennsylvania, New Jersey, West Virginia, Texas. We're the product of the merger between SunTrust and BB&T. Those two heritage organizations came together at the end of 2019. And when we announced our merger, we also began a listening tour that included 8 public community meetings that we had. And I know we were in Baltimore with you, Jules, at that time. We've been all across our footprint, and we heard a lot from the community about the credit needs and reinforcing what we had already learned through our engagement prior to the merger taking place. But that series of public meetings really galvanized a lot of thinking in the organization. We're an active lender of residential mortgages, of commercial real estate, and of small business lending. In fact, we were among the top 5 on the PPP program lending across our footprint. And the good news for the community is that about 27% of our PPP loans went to majority minority census tracts, and about 26% went to LMI census tracts. So we feel that really that's very similar to our overall branch distribution, our footprint. So we felt like we got that money out to the entire spectrum of communities that we serve, and tried to make it that we could distribute that to our diverse supplier network, to a network of small community businesses throughout our footprint. But capital needs for building a business, for entrepreneurs who are starting a business, is really a challenge for banks. And I won't pretend that Truist is perfect in this area, but it's an area we've given a lot of thought to, and we are attempting to use some creative and more indirect measures of getting capital out to communities. One of the ways we're doing that is through our Community Development Fund initiative, where as part of our Truist Community Capital Program, we've been working with sponsored funds throughout our footprint, from Baltimore, Washington, all the way through Florida, where we're investing. So far, we have more than $70 million in commitments that we've made to funds like the Durham Affordable Housing Loan Fund, like the Black Business Investment Fund out of Orlando. where the variety of needs of the community are being addressed through these special purpose lending vehicles. So we'll be an investor or a lender to that fund. That fund will then engage with the community, making loans that maybe wouldn't meet our credit criteria, but that will be a break even over a 10 or 15 year period. So those are a couple of the ways that we're trying to engage, Marcos.
Thank you. And thank you for that honesty. Sometimes it's a difficult thing to say that we don't know how or haven't been doing a certain type of activity.
Yeah.
Jules?
So right. And so the next area is and good. We've got some slides here. Yeah. Great. So you can scroll through those. It's 6 of them. Have you talked to, do you want to speak to, has this issue come up?
Another way that we're engaging and providing capital is as part of that merger process. And Al and this organization was very involved in dialogue, discussion, and spurring our thought process. So I just want to say thank you to Al personally, because he's been a mentor and advisor to me personally, and has taught me a lot about how to engage and how to engage passionately in the community. And our organization just has a ton of respect for Al and this virtual summit and everything that Al stands for. So my hat is off to my good friend Al. But as part of the dialogue we had with the community, we came out with a $60 billion commitment to the community. That commitment is a 3-year commitment, and it involves the full spectrum of stuff that Truist can bring as a bank to the community, including, residential affordable housing lending, community development, financing, and investment. So not only loans, as I was describing, through community development funds, but low-income housing tax credit, new market tax credits, and other financing vehicles. And then investment, both through the equity that I just described, but as well through our foundation, the Truist Foundation, as well as through our community development officers throughout our footprint. They also are in a position where they can also provide grant funding to folks in the community. So that package is $60 billion. I'm proud to say that we are ahead of our plan. We're at about 113% of our where we should be right now in month. I guess we're almost through 2 years of the program, but we will by the end of 2022 have delivered $60 billion plus in benefits through this commitment that we made.
Okay, great. And so the next area I think is Black and Brown small developer needs. You want to speak to that, Marcos? Ask the question. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So again, you guys have done some tremendous things, and again, you talked about your geographic footprint, right? And I know that
Right.
has some limitations in how you operate and how you function. But one of the questions that we recently have had is, this, the internet banking and some of the big tech and Google
Right.
and things like that, and how does that, impact what you do and how we as business folks should be considering how to move forward.
Well, that's a great question. And again, Marcos, you keep asking questions that we could spend all day talking about. So I'll try to sum up my thought process here. I know that this community has pushed banks hard. Jules, you and I have sat in Baltimore in like that civic center, and I felt like I was like the guy going into the lion's den. But the most important thing that Truist will do and will always commit to do is we'll engage, right? Like, we're not going to run away from the community. We understand that as a bank, we have a privilege in deposit insurance, in all the advantages banks have in the way of lending and in the way of having access to the Fed window, et cetera. That charter that we have gives us a real advantage in the way of doing business. We get it. The trade, if you will, the social contract that we have is with the communities that we serve. If we're branching in a place and taking deposits, the entire raison d'etre of the Community Reinvestment Act is that we then extend credit and services to that community who's entrusting us with their money. That's the social contract that's embodied in the CRA. And we embrace that. Our $60 billion commitment is not anything that anyone forced us to do. We made that commitment because we love the communities we serve and we're privileged to be part of it. We know we get challenged by Jules and Marcos in prepping for this. I mean, they're going to push back. Al, I mean, is kind of like the ultimate guy who will push back and say, you're not doing enough. You need to go deeper. You need to go further. You need to be more creative. And we get that. The thing I'm concerned about with these technology companies that are entering the payment space, they don't want to make loans. All they want to do is facilitate transactions and charge like interchange fees and debit fees and move money around. But they're not really ingrained in the community. And the new director of the CFPB, Rohit Chopra, testified on Capitol Hill late last week, and he talked about relationship banking and the need to maintain dialogue, presence, engagement with the community. And we're not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. We got a long way to go to fulfill our purpose of inspiring and building better lives and communities, but we're here to build our community. I worry a lot about the attack on the bank charter that's occurring from the technology companies who want access to the Fed window, who want access to the payment system. They want to be able to do what a bank does without taking deposits and making loans. They want to reap the benefits of financial services without really engaging in the community. And so my pitch to this community is, look, we're not perfect, but we're here and we're here to stay and we're here to listen. Listening is really an important thing that anyone in my seat is privileged to do. And so maybe I'll stop talking for a second and listen. So that's my.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, Peter, I think that consumers are just not educated enough on when you talk about these new internet banks. They make them seem real sexy and you can get your paycheck 2 days in advance. And,
right.
But what they don't do is have you look at the small fine print that says these are not FDIC insured deposits. And so, what's missing is what you're talking about is the relationship, right? The relationship that is garnered from meeting people at a branch and connecting with a bank. And I think that banks really need to do a concerted job in helping consumers understand the difference between these internet banks that are popping up and the bricks and mortar traditional banks and the value proposition. And so are you all kind of looking at that?
Yeah, sure. So look, hey, we're not anti-competition, right? These guys are coming in and they're doing some things for people like, hey, we'll give you an advance on your paycheck if that's helpful to you. We'll charge you, like over 2 days, we'll charge you like $50, but people are getting their money quicker, and it's like another substitute for how folks get an advance. Maybe it's a little better for them, but that's a challenge to us. We're looking at that. We are working very hard on products that will enable people to use a legit checking account like a Truist Bank account and be able to obtain a little bit of an advance, a little bit of a bridge without it being viewed as an overdraft or some kind of like ding on their credit. If they need a little bridge for a couple of days, somehow combining a small, reasonably priced, bridge loan product with someone who has an ACH where their paycheck is coming into their deposit account. So that's work that Truist is doing. Once we complete our merger integration, we're going to be rolling out some products like that. So that competition is good for us, but it doesn't replace the listening, right? The engagement with the community. So like Al came to us and said, hey, you guys don't get it. I can develop affordable rental housing in Tampa area if you will bet on me and give me a line of credit that will enable me to build and rehab housing in Tampa in a way that puts people in a neighborhood with good schools and good access to services. And we had to listen, we had to learn. It took us a really long time to get comfortable, but we did. And that's a success story. Al is making that thing work really, really well. We're proud to be his partner on that. So if banks can listen to the community, we can meet needs. If we come in and try to say one size fits all, here's your product, it's going to go from Baltimore to Florida, this is the way it is, then we're really not going to respond to the needs of the community very well. So I think listening is what it needs to be about.
So Peter, to that end, and this is the kind of the final question, if you will. It's the small nonprofits like ourselves and others, that probably mostly the folks on this call, and the small developers, and operators on this call, that don't understand what you just said about presenting, like Al did, presenting the need, and not walking away with a no, not accepting just a no, because a lot of times our needs are things that the bank hasn't tested yet. So how do you get your message into your bankers, your local regional bankers, so that they know how to listen, and that they know that Truist is truly committed to this, and so that they can then start to provide nonprofits with capital and provide them with inventory and the types of things that we need to be able to serve our community?
Okay, so wow, great question. And on the slides, which we'll make available, we've listed, another thing we do is we're in our community. We have community development managers that stretch from, Philadelphia, Natasha Horton in Baltimore. We've got folks spread throughout our entire lending footprint. Now, anyone who's in California, we don't have a CDM in California, but through our lending footprint, all the way through Texas, we have folks who are our representatives, our feet and eyes and ears and hearts and brains in the community. And those community development managers actually will be convening with those 10 breakout sessions. So if you're in our geography, please go to the breakout session, make the connection. And, you'll hear stories about people who tried 2, 3, 4 times to get something going with Truist, either in the way of a grant or some kind of loan or some kind of other product or service. And if you keep at it and keep talking to each other, you'll understand how we think about extending credit and providing services. And then you can learn more, and hopefully we can make something happen in the locality that is served by that community development manager.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to get ready to hear from your CEO. Yes. And now that you're with us, I'm gonna have you say a couple words about him for the audience, and then we'll hear his message. But while we're listening to his message, Peter, I want to encourage our participants. If you have specific questions, please use the Q&A tab, because right after the video, we will share a couple of audience questions with Peter. All right. So Peter, tell us a little bit about your leader.
Yeah, Bill's he's an awesome guy. Okay. He's the most authentic CEO I've ever dealt with. He lives purpose. He's the guy who pushes, inspire, and build better lives and communities. He really does believe in it. He took over as CEO from Kelly King, who was another fantastic leader, in September. And the first thing he did with his entire executive leadership team is to go out, served at a food bank, and then had a meeting with small business entrepreneurs in Charlotte. And they met with 10 really small micro businesses, including many minority business providers. The first thing he did as CEO is sit down and say, we're here to listen to you. Tell us what your challenges are. Tell us how we can help you. So that's the kind of leader Bill is. And so I'll let him speak for himself.
Thank you.
Should I do a drum roll?
It's coming. Here we go.
There it comes. Yay.
Thank you for participating in the 2021 National Black and Latino Economic Summit. And thank you, Alpina, for allowing me to share a few comments today. As you're all well aware, the world changed drastically in 2020. Certainly, COVID-19 created considerable changes and continues to do so. But the pandemic wasn't the only catalyst for change. A tragic series of events last year highlighted our nation's unresolved racial issues and precipitated different changes, long overdue changes. Those events prompted a new look at diversity, equity, and inclusion, and commitments to clear, measurable, sustainable change. While we're just now closing in on our second year as Truist, we've built this company on values that guide us to be very intentional about advancing DE&I. It's fundamental to what we stand for, inspiring and building better lives and communities. That's our why, our purpose, our reason for being. Our DE&I commitments include increasing diversity in senior leadership roles, increasing our spending with diverse suppliers, increasing efforts to recruit top talent from historically Black colleges and universities, and so much more. You can read about what we're doing at Truist in our 2020 CSR and ESG report and our 2020 Supplier Diversity Economic Report on Truist.com. Organizations being very deliberate about maintaining this momentum is one piece of closing the racial gap. But our commitments have to extend beyond our literal and figurative corporate walls. Closing the racial gap includes ensuring children in historically excluded communities have access to technology so they can learn, grow, and realize their full potential. It means working to ensure children have homes and supporting nonprofits that provide safe places for them to go when there's no one at home after school. It means access to 3 meals a day and so much more. Across the country, millions of children are facing significant challenges. Where you're born shouldn't determine how successful you are in life. These children are our future, and plain and simple, we cannot let them down. Closing the racial gap means ensuring capital is available through the likes of Truist Community Capital, which finances economic revitalization efforts and the construction and preservation of affordable housing. We must ensure equitable access to capital. The private sector needs to work hand in hand with the public sector and nonprofits to support small business growth and advance opportunities in all our communities. Clearly, there are many pieces to this puzzle, and there's a lot to be done. I'm grateful for events like this summit, which brings us together to motivate and challenge each other. Keep these critical conversations going and turn talk into action. I'm grateful for individuals like you who know we can accomplish so much more together than we can in silos. I look forward to hearing about your listening and breakout sessions, as well as your roundtable conversations. And I look forward to collaborating with you as we continue to explore innovative avenues to a brighter future. And now I'll let you get on with the important work you've come to do at this summit. Thank you, and I hope you have a great and purposeful day.
Wow.
All right. Well, that was wonderful. I mean, a really wonderful set of remarks, and he seems like he's very in touch. And the fact that he talked about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and the fact that you all are working to be intentional at Truist around those issues, I believe is a sign of an institution that is working to lead the way in the industry. And so that's good.
Thank you. Well, he picked me up on the DEI stuff. We're really super actively involved in that. I'm personally a sponsor of the disabilities team at Truist. I've been involved with the African American Teammate Network, the Latino. We have a lot of networks that really focus on getting our teammates to be their authentic selves at work. And we're focused on senior management hiring. We have a very diverse board. Yesterday, we were part of, the mayor of Charlotte made a $250 million racial equity announcement that Truist was part of at the Johnson C. Smith University. We're going to give $8 million there to the Johnson Smith University to help enable kids to go to that school and to pursue careers in financial services. We need them. We need young people with great perspectives to come into our business. So I'm glad he spent time on that.
Well, thank you. And Peter, before we go into the breakouts, we have, I think, time for maybe 2 questions. We have a question from Kevin Butts. It doesn't say what organization he represents, right? But the question is, what other professional development credit training programs are being offered to loan officers lending in Black, Brown communities other than the traditional EEOC training programs, given the new CRA and corporate objectives?
That's a great challenge and a great question. We actually have, and this is something that the BB&T folks brought to the table. We have multicultural branches. We have a network of over, I think, 300 or 400 multicultural branches where we have either a Spanish-speaking teammate, branch manager, or someone who's of that community. I know down in Florida, I know there are some folks from Brazil that I'm personally mentoring, actually, a woman down there who engage with the community and are able to, help people bridge that divide of walking into a bank branch that may not really feel good. So we do have that, but we're also multilingual in some of our mortgage offerings. We've got more work to do on LEP, which is the limited English proficiency. Is a challenge for a lot of banks to try to diversify. We've focused and done pretty well with Spanish language materials. We need to diversify and do better there. But I think with respect to being in the community, we made a commitment that our LMI, we're going to open 15 new LMI branches by the end of 2022. That was part of our commitment. And we've also committed to maintain our LMI branch distribution at, or I think, a full percentage point higher than when the 2 organizations came together. So we're doing what we can to stay in the community and of the community so that, Truist is not just something that's out in the shopping malls hither and yon, but that we're actually, banking and living and working in communities that reflect the full spectrum of who we serve.
Thank you. And I guess maybe we have time for one more question. Before we go to the breakouts, or is that it, Jules?
Well, they're telling us we got to move forward, but
Okay.
there's going to be an opportunity, and that's what I'm going to share. There's going to be an opportunity for people to really have one-on-one engagement with Truist this afternoon. Yes. So I'm getting ready to share about that. But Peter, we're just grateful that you took the time to be with us this morning. We are appreciative for your insights, and most importantly, we're appreciative for Truist's commitment to listening to people in community and wanting to make a difference on the ground for Black and Brown communities all across the United States. And so I'm going to get ready to shift us. Is there any last thing you would like to say in parting, Peter?
Just I'm grateful. I'm grateful to be part of this panel. I'm grateful for my friendship with Al, which means a whole lot to me. He's a real good person and a strong spirit. And I just want to encourage everybody that we've got a lot of weirdness and divisiveness in this country right now. And I just think I don't like it. I think that we need to be more real with each other and care about what other people's perspective is. And if we can be a good listener and a good partner, that's an honor. And we're just grateful for that opportunity. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you. And so with that, time just zooms when you're having a really good conversation. And so it is time for us to shift to our next conversation. And I'm going to give you the teaser. Okay. So if you thought you were going somewhere, you can't go. All right. Because it is going to be good. First thing that we want you to know is that Truist has brought forth a whole team of experts that are going to be with us at 12:30 in their breakout session. You've got David Hiller, who's the Small Business Product and Segment Director, Lauren Butler, who's the Truist Community Capital Community Development Fund Relationship Manager. You've got Nora, I won't get her name right, Villayones, okay, who's the
Nora
Truist
Villayones.
Community Cap. There we go. All
She's
right.
up in Baltimore with you.
Well, wonderful.
Awesome.
She's the Truist Community Capital Senior Vice President, deals with LIHTC equity. And you've got Janice Goodman, who's the Truist Community Capital Senior VP that deals with new markets, tax credit relationships. And you have Heidi Schoonover, the CRA and Community Development Senior Vice President and Director of CRA Strategic Programs and Initiatives. And lastly, you've got Loretta Williamson, who's the Mortgage Strategy Senior Vice President and Head of the Mortgage Strategic Growth. Now, I hope you all heard that. You have all of the heads of the departments that are coming,
thing.
Right?
Yeah, you got the good people.
Exactly. And so this is an opportunity for you to meet the people who make decisions, the people who can hear your issues and are really going to be able to help you get the necessary information to hopefully be able to grow your business, grow your work that you're doing in community. So that is at 12:30. You don't want to miss it. Then we want to be able to let you know that coming right up, we've got live conversations with CEOs from Huntington Bank, from Flagstar, and New York Community Bancorp. So all of those live conversations are happening from now until 1 p.m. But again, we've got the breakout session at 12:30. And so with that, Marcos and I and Peter are going to say adieu, and we're going to bring on Dina Harris, who's going to take you right into the next session with Huntington Bank. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day.
Thanks.